Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Simply Done Concierge. Folks, there's still only 24 hours in a day. They've not changed that. So most of us are in two places or three places at one time. We need help. That's what the folks at Simply Done Concierge can do for you. Meal prep, errand running, dog sitting, packing, unpacking, things like that. They're there to help you. If you go to simplydoneconcierge.com, and to fill out the form there on what you're looking for. They'll get back in touch with you. I know they can help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and the surrounding towns. Each week, 32 chapters and about 545 members get together, and our goal is to help each other grow businesses. In our local small business success story this week is Heather Driver with CopyPro. Heather is a member of 919 Networking in Clayton. They meet Thursday mornings at 8:30 a.m. at the U.S. Health Advisor's office on US 70 Business. Heather, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. I'm great. How are you today?
Doing good, doing good. Heather is also visitor host, and the visitor host are the people, the friendly people that like to talk, Heather. And they saw you coming and they said, "You're going to be our visitor host," didn't they?
Yeah, I think they pegged me from my first visit.
We're usually pretty good at that. When somebody applies, it's like we're already figuring out where in leadership we can put them. So,
That's right.
all right. So, Copy Pro, you and I met last Tuesday, I think.
hmm
And I don't know much about your world. There's only a couple people in BNI that do what you do, and we don't talk about it much, but boy, when your world goes wrong for a business, it changes their day, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. And that's my goal. I want my copier or printer to be the last thing on their mind. They should be able to press print and not worry about it.
We know the complaints, haven't been able to get anything done all day. We've called our person 3 times and they've not been out there. What are the problems, people have, and why do they end up calling you?
So a lot of what I see is a small, especially in small businesses, is they're just getting started. They run to their local Office Depot or Staples and grab $100 printer off the shelf. And unfortunately, you do get what you pay for. So if you're trying to run a business with something um, not commercial, it tends to become a problem once your business grows.
And the business probably grows faster than when we think, "I need some new equipment."
That's right. Well, if I know my grandmother, I went to see her this weekend. She's the church treasurer at our little country church that I grew up in. And she's like, my printer's not working. And of course, I'm not an IT person and I don't, I sell the copiers and printers. I don't work on them. I know what they're supposed to do, but it was just a little $100 off the shelf printer and checked all the cables, reinstalled the print driver, still wouldn't work. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. I don't know. I can't help you. I wish I could. So um, there's limits to what it's going to do if you paid $100 for it, for sure.
Is there a rule of thumb based on how many copies you make, how many employees you have, how busy you are that kinda gives you an understanding of, I think you're ready for this"?
That's the fun thing about my job. I could be in a one person insurance office one day and a sweet potato farmer the next, and a manufacturing firm the next day, and a medical office after that. So I found that around 1,000 pages a month, which is only 2 reams of paper, seems to be a good starting point when most people start to feel pain from something they bought off the shelf. But that's a good starting point for most customers who don't already have a commercial machine in place.
So 1,000 wow, I hadn't even thought about that. 2 ream, you would think 1,000, the number's like, "Okay, that's a lot," but then when you think 2 reams, it's like, mm, depending
Not
on the size
much.
of your business, you'll go through that, and there's some industries that still have to print out things.
Yes.
And then there's my generation that I swear is keeping you and your fellow people employed because we still want to print out everything whether we need to or not.
I'm guilty of it too, Mike. I will print out an email in a heartbeat, and it's really good for the shredding companies.
Yep, yep.
We feed each other for sure. Legal industry, real estate, which is huge around these parts right now. Medical, even with EMR, the medical offices still have a lot of paper. So anyway, I know when I first started 15 years ago, everybody's like, everyone's going paperless. Why are we going into a copier industry? Well, let me tell you, CopyPro went paperless around the time I started, and it tripled our output because now when we need something, we just reprint it every time. So paperless is more about having access to the information. It doesn't always necessarily lower your output like people think.
Now, back in the day, so when you started with CopyPro 16 years ago, you were just right out of high school, right out of college, so very young age. My story, Imma tell it how I like to, okay?
Okay.
And so that was back in the day for me, and we always had that jam guy. They know whenever the copier jams, like, "Hey, go get Bill, he knows how to fix this."
Yes, there's always I call it the mother hen of the copier.
Yeah,
Always try to find out.
yeah, share with us the joke you told last week at the Smithfield group about the copier.
So I said, why did Sally name her copier Marley? And it's because it was always jamming. And I think the real joke is, why did she name the copier Bob Marley? Because it was always jamming. So yeah.
I laughed hard on that. I thought that was very funny, and you're right, but back in the day, that's what it was, and usually it's paper put in there wrong or, who knows, but there's always that one person that could fix that. I became very impressed with copiers when we could scan and email or
Yes.
scan and fax back in the day. It's like, "Okay, now we're getting somewhere."
Yeah, they're all network devices. Early on in my career, I think they started making them. You actually could get a copier that did not scan or print at that time, but then probably within the first year of being in the industry, they all became network devices.
So what was do you guys sell or lease fax machine?
I don't think we have a standalone fax machine available any longer. We did for a long time,
Okay.
but now they all, you can put a fax board on a printer that, is a copier as well. So, and we do small desktops. I think it came to the point where it didn't make sense to do a fax by itself. You just got a small desktop copier that had a fax on it.
Do you remember the first fax machine that you were selling when you started with CopyPro?
Our one of our manufacturers, Savin, which is made by Rico, they still had the standalone fax machines, and it was funny because people would turn around and make a copy on it, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Well, I just want a fax machine." We just made a copy on it. Well, why don't you just get a nicer one? Yeah. So we had those. When I first started, they always said, "You're not going to be able to get a plain black and white printer, a black and white copier. They're all going to be color. They're
Mhm.
going to stop making the black and white ones." Well, that hasn't happened
Yep.
yet. There's still a market for just black and white.
Yeah. Because if you need a Word document, I don't need to pay extra for toner to make it blue and red. Just give me black and white. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked you the fact story is this was, I'm going to go with before you were born. Okay. So
Okay.
this was 1980 when I was a student at the University of Tennessee in the women's athletic department. And the fax machine we had was a drum. So you take the sheet of paper face down, clip it in the drum, and I would call you, put the handset in the slot there, so my phone could read your phone tone, and a needle would go across it. It would take 6 minutes, and if anybody picked up your phone or my phone, we'd have to start all over again. So then, assuming it went through, I'd hang up. I would call you, "Hey, Heather, did you get the fax?" And you'd look, "Let me go get it." You look at it, "Yeah, I can read it, thanks." And it just took like 10 minutes to send a fax way back when, but those were a lot of fun.
We take it for granted. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. Well, yes, yeah. But the technology has gotta be amazing from the day you started. Even now, they're coming out with newer stuff, right?
Oh yeah. All the research and development has gone into scanning, scanning, because people want to archive those documents in a digital format. Just because they're easier to find that way and they take up less space. You don't have those, we had at CopyPro an attic full of paper, the banker's boxes. And then I think we rented maybe 2 storage facilities. So we hired some college students one summer to go back and just scan everything. And the money you think document management's expensive, and you think, well, what are you paying to store all this
Yeah.
crap in a storage, in a document, in a big storage facility? So
Oh, yeah, it made perfect
yeah.
sense. The other invention I liked on the copier was when it could collate and staple.
Yes, I have one customer that still wants the bin sorter on the side.
Nice.
And Savin still makes them. They're the only manufacturer we represent that still makes them. And I keep telling her, I'm like, next time we upgrade in 5 years, this is probably not going to be available. And they're like, no, we want it. We got to have our bins. Everybody knows which slot's theirs,
Love those. Oh, yeah, because you could see it when it came out. You could see it go out and then slide back in, then the next one go, "Oh, yeah." I remember those days.
Mhm.
That was a lot of fun. When you started, what was the percentage of people buying the equipment versus leasing it?
Traditionally, it's always been about 90% lease
Okay.
versus buying. The 90% lease, 10% buying has been kind of that hasn't really changed. CopyPro was unique when I started in that we had our own leasing company. So the owners did a lot of the underwriting, through local banks themselves. And we actually outgrew that about 5 years ago. It got to the point where it wasn't sustainable. So we use some bigger banks now to underwrite our leases under our brand name. So I think maybe we were ahead of the curve with leasing as a family-owned local company at the time.
When you started, and I'm always fascinated because I know what a white male's life is like, so that's the point of this question is, when you started, how many other women were doing what you were doing back then?
Oh, that's a great question. And I guess I could go back to how I got started. I was in the hotel business. I went to college for hospitality management, and I sold to groups, corporate organizations bringing 15 people in for a week-long training. That was my bread and butter, or a family reunion or a ball team or something like that. So I did hotel sales. And my first week on the job at the Hampton Inn in Rocky Mount, I met a woman named Christina Barfield who worked for CopyPro. And she had been there about 10 years. And she's like, you would be great at this. And I'm thinking, why would I want to sell copy? That sounds horrible. That sounds like the most boring job on the planet. I work in the hotel business. We have a little bit of glamour, which really you don't. So she was my mentor and the person who originally recruited me in the beginning. It took her 2 years to sell me on it before I finally took the leap. But I rode with her one day. I saw that she was doing the same thing I was doing, just selling a product instead of a block of hotel rooms or a conference space. But yeah, so there was Christina, there was a woman named Crystal, and there was me. There was maybe 3 out of 10 or 3 out of 15 of us when I first started. And it's funny, now we have probably a 50-50 split. We try not to be, sexist or anything, but a lot of our managers will tell you we'd rather have a female sales rep than a male any day, because generally we're just more organized.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that in many industries, so you're not wrong on that
Yeah,
statement.
yeah. Nothing against men or women, but the
No,
women seem to be more organized than the men, and our paperwork's usually more accurate.
yeah. And the other thing that jumped out at me was the length of time you've been with CopyPro, because in this day and age, people just don't stay at companies this long.
They don't. And in my 20s, I never thought I'd stay somewhere 15 years. I was guilty of job jumping. I bounced between 2 different hotel companies. And I actually went to work for CopyPro and left after 2 years and then came back after a year. So I finally got that. Yeah, I guess I drank the Kool-Aid and decided, well, no, this is what I'm going to do for my career. And I just made that commitment to CopyPro, which is odd because the average tenure of a copier salesperson is 6 months. So,
Wow.
and that's just as an industry. At CopyPro, ours is, probably closer to 7 years.
Wow.
for our average tenure. So
Are there many major competitors for you?
yeah, so there's a few other family-owned dealerships in the area. Um, CopyPro, we're a little bit different as far as our sales department in that we are salary plus commission, which makes a big difference with retention.
Mhm.
CopyPro pays all of our health insurance. We get a car allowance. We get a cell phone that we can use for personal as well. You know, they really set us up for success. And not a lot of companies are going to, number one, pay your health insurance anymore.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
How many miles do you put on in a given month, do you think?
Usually around 2,000 miles a month.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. Not too bad.
I go from, so I live in Zebulon, but I'm in Johnston County. So I make a lot of trips to Wilson and I make a lot of trips to Clayton and Smithfield. So I'm usually in I can be at a customer's office within 30 minutes. Whereas I have coworkers that have a much longer commute. You know, they may be based out of Greenville and having to
Yeah.
go to a Hosky or something like that.
How did COVID change copy sales world?
You know, I had the third best year of my career in 2020. And to this day, it was really just God's grace, you know, because mentally it was a hard
Mhm.
year. But as far as COVID goes, we really, obviously we had to work from home. Customers, we were an essential business, so we could go out and sell if we needed to, but a lot of customers were not open to
Yeah.
vendors unless the copier was broken. Um, for me, 2020 kind of showed me that I can work from home a little bit more and do a lot more legwork versus just riding the roads. I would rather be out selling and calling, whereas I probably should have been doing more homework and digging into my customers' accounts and running the reports and things like that. So I think the secret to my success for having a good year in 2020 was just slowing down and studying what my customers were doing and you know just really doing more research on them before I tried to go in with a solution.
With companies, well, COVID, most companies sent most all their employees home, and some are
Mhm.
still working from home. Have you guys had to outfit many homes with copiers or printers or anything like that?
We actually increased our sales of our desktop units, but most folks, you know, they would still come into the office to do their big jobs,
Yeah.
and it seems like a lot of the customers we had, especially in the construction industry, they didn't miss a beat. They were busier than they were before. Um, so it was weird. You know, a lot of churches in particularly, we had to do a lot of um, adjustments to their service contracts because obviously they were closed. They didn't have to print programs and bulletins anymore. But I think probably the religious segment got hit the hardest in 2020. But then some other industries kept on trucking. It was really remarkable.
It was interesting to follow the home building, design and industries through COVID because I think a lot of people's got stuck sitting at home and
Mhm.
like, "We gotta move. This house just isn't working anymore," or, "We gotta paint the walls. We gotta put a new addition on." I think a lot of money was made that way.
Yeah, yeah. Our service providers, we have customers that are HVAC, plumbers, home builders, contractors in general, real estate attorneys, especially. They didn't stop. They kept
Yeah.
going.
Who has been with you the longest as an account or a relationship?
You know, Gosh, I have a ton of legacy accounts that I inherited when I started 15 years ago in the Wilson market.
Okay.
The Johnston County market is relatively new, maybe in the last 5 to 6 years, but and they let me start selling in Johnston County because I live here. I finally asked enough, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Good.
But in Wilson County, I could probably list 20 customers we've had for over 20 years in
Wow.
Wilson County. We've been in business for 50. So if I really dug down, there's probably some that are 40 plus year customers.
But with you, you're seeing second generation business owners in Wilson, aren't you?
I am. And it's funny. That's kind of something that I've started asking when I do annual reviews with my customers. It's like, hey, when are you looking to retire? Or what's your plans over the next 5 years? Because some customers are like, well, my son or daughter's taking over, or I'm selling out. And you know, and that's been the worst, is to see some customers sell out and, go with they sell their small firm to a national company, and then we get kicked to the curb.
Yep.
That's the last thing we want to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, we are seeing some second and third generation customers, which is neat. You think over the course of 15 years, I've watched customers' kids grow up and graduate from high school and go to college and get married in some cases. It's been really neat.
Were you in the hotel industry long enough to figure out if you woulda liked staying in it or not?
Yeah, yeah, I did. So the reason I went that route is I grew up near the Outer Banks. I grew up less than an hour from Nags Head. And in my naive 18-year-old brain, I thought that I would work at a hotel or a resort at the beach after college. And I didn't think about how much it costs to live over there. So that was my interest in hospitality and tourism. Um, did the program at East Carolina, hospitality management, did my internship with Marriott, and I really wanted to go to work for Marriott when I got out of college. Um, but I graduated from college in December of 2001. So we all know what happened in September 2001.
Yep.
So as an industry, the travel just went to nothing. Um, so yeah, that didn't work out. I got on the phone like right before I graduated and called every hotel in Greenville because I already had a place to live. I had an apartment there, and just happened to catch a sales director at the Holiday Inn Express in Greenville. She said, "Oh, I just put my 2-week notice in. You should come here and apply." And so I actually knew someone who knew someone, and that's how I got my first sales gig in the hotel business at 21 years old.
Let me go out on a limb and say the plan with Marriott was maybe to run a resort, uh, somewhere not near Greenville or the Outer Banks. Am I close?
Well, it's funny. I could have done my internship anywhere in the world, and I went to Crabtree in Raleigh.
Really? Heather,
I'm just a
Heather.
homebody. I am, but I kind of wanted to go corporate with them. I thought it would be really neat to do, let me go to the big Fortune 500 companies and negotiate their, corporate travel for everywhere in America, things like that. But as I bounced around between hotel companies, I worked for some Marriott franchisees in my 20s, and one of my friends worked for the Big M, and yeah, I followed her and kind of confided in her. I told her what I wanted, and she traveled 3 days a week. I mean, she was getting on airplanes every week. And at the time, I had just gotten married, and I knew we wanted to start a family. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if that's the lifestyle I really want. But that would have been cool if I was single and didn't want a family. But then reality,
Yep.
it's like the reality of probably not going to work at the beach because I can't afford to live there, and then probably not going to work for corporate Marriott because it's a lot of travel. So CopyPro just entered my life at a really good time.
'Cause you have some good flexibility, I know, right?
I
Out of
do,
the
I
house.
do.
Are you pretty good working out of the house? Because some of us struggle.
Yeah, yeah. So I think 2020 kind of made me a little too comfortable working from home. So it's been, as you know, it's been a gradual, let's get back out there, 2021, 2022 was transition. And now things are pretty much back to normal. I made it a New Year's resolution to set my first appointment at 8:30 every morning. So it would
Good.
force me to drop my kid off at school and get on out in the field.
Mhm.
And then I block out usually 1 or 2 afternoons a week to do all the computer stuff that needs to be done.
Yep.
And even then, sometimes I'll go camp out. I know you're a Panera Bread fan.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I will camp out at a Panera Bread or a Starbucks or a local coffee shop if I really need to focus. I don't know. I found that I focus better if I'm not at home.
I do that too because when I sit at Panera, there's nothing else for me to do but sit there and work. I don't have to,
That's right.
move the sheets in the washing machine to the dryer, or God forbid, go to the refrigerator and eat something I don't need to eat.
Absolutely. I get really snacky if I work from home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think I need to go get a snack.
Yeah, my wife went to Sam's yesterday, and she came back with a big jar of jelly beans. I'm like, "Why do
Ooh,
you" and she does not work from home. I said, "Why are you doing that?" She goes, "Oh, I'm taking those to work." I'm like, "Okay, good." But, yeah,
yeah,
that stuff left in the house is just it's gone too quick. Because
yeah.
my
I made the
logic is if I eat it fast, it'll be gone, and then she'll
absolutely.
yeah, but I don't believe that from a health standpoint works.
Yeah, I made the mistake. I love my favorite Easter candy are the robin's eggs, the
Yep.
Whoppers robin's eggs, and I put them in a candy dish on the kitchen counter, and I had to move them to the pantry because every time I
Oh, yeah.
walked by, I would grab two or three of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've not found a piece of candy I can only eat one of, so it doesn't matter what it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Oh,
With you
yeah.
on that.
Your high school so let me see if I can pronounce this right, if I've got it right. Is it
Okay.
Mattamuskeet?
Madam Mesquite, you did very
Mattamuskeet
good.
in Swan Quarter.
Yes.
Okay, how many traffic lights in Swan Quarter?
None in the whole county. The whole county. We used to have one, which is at a drawbridge, but they replaced the drawbridge with a high-rise bridge.
Okay.
So
The highlight on Friday night in high school was driving up and down Main Street and stopping at the Dairy Queen?
we had something called the cow parlor. Yeah, even better. Yeah, there was an ice cream place. They had pool tables and little arcade games, and that's where the kids hung out between there and the elementary school parking lot because it was
Nice.
right next to the parking lot. Yeah.
For my friends of the show that grew up in small towns, how long did it take news to get back to your parents about something you shouldn't have done?
It would beat you home. I remember I got grounded for the whole month of March once. Um, exactly for that reason. Yeah.
Do you care to share what you did or what you got blamed for doing, whether you did it or not?
Well, my best friend was a year older than I was, and she had her driver's license and I didn't.
Ah,
So my best friend picked me up, but my best friend didn't bring me home. I wasn't back at the meeting place by the time we were supposed to leave. So she left me. So my boyfriend that I wasn't supposed to be seeing anyway
yeah,
had to bring me home late. So my mom was standing at the door,
yeah.
and I could still see the smoke coming out of her ears.
You would have
Uh,
been better off walking home than showing up with your boyfriend, right?
Absolutely. Bless his heart. He walked me to the door and apologized. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, you're braver than I am.
Yep, yep. What was the best thing about going to high school there?
Everyone, the positives and the negatives. Everybody knows everybody, which, a lot of people say that's negative because the bad news beats you home. But that's also a positive. Everybody knows everybody. I graduated in a class of 46. So we all still keep in touch over Facebook. So it is very rare that you have the same best friend that you had when you were 13 years old.
Yep.
So yeah, we all keep in touch. I've got friends that live in this area. We have kids the same age, and it's just odd that I have other friends from college that they don't know where any of their classmates are from
Yep.
high school, whereas we all keep up with each other.
I think that's most schools don't. I mean, I had
Hmm.
46. We'd have 46 in a PE class. I graduated from Millbrook here, and
Oh
there were
wow.
444 people in my graduating class. So, yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
Very close knit. Everyone looks out for everybody.
yep,
You didn't have to worry about your mama because if somebody else's mama saw you, they were going
yep.
to parent you as well.
And all the parents gave their friends green light to parent their kid if they're getting out of line. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw a meme. I saw a meme on social media. It says you weren't really their best friend unless their mama, fussed both of you out.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. So,
Yeah.
one of my favorite questions to ask married guests on the show tell me your husband's name,
Stephen.
Stephen. All right. So, how did you and Stephen meet? And do you both tell the story the same way?
So I heard this question. I listened to a couple of the podcasts last week to get an idea of what to expect. And I've been looking forward to this question.
Well, good. Thanks
we,
for doing some homework.
we would not tell the story the same way. Um, so one of my best friends from college married one of his best friends from high school.
Okay.
So we were both in the wedding. That's probably our first memory of each other. I was a bridesmaid, he was a groomsman. Um, and we had been, we were in the same circle of friends for probably 4 years before we ever started dating. He had a girlfriend at the time, and I think she thought that I was trying to steal her man because he would flirt with me openly in front of her. It made me so uncomfortable. I'm like, your girlfriend's going to kill me. I don't even like you, you know? So that I don't even like you came back to bite me.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Generally does. Yep.
Yeah, so him and his girlfriend broke up, and he called my best friend, one of my best friends. He said he was coming after me, and I said, well, I don't even like him, so that he might as well not even try. So anyway, he tried to take me out on a date for probably a good year, and I would always have an excuse as to why I could not, you know, go out to dinner or do this or do that. And bless his heart, he never stopped trying. I think he just eventually wore me down. So we were in the same circle of friends, and one night we were supposed to meet as a group to go hear the holiday band. We like beach music. So he shows up at my house by himself, and I was like, where is everybody? And he said, this is everybody. And I'm like, okay, you got me this time. You know, and at that point I was already dressed, so what was I going to do? So just the two of us went to hear this beach band, and he was a perfect gentleman, and he was actually pretty enjoyable to be around. And I'm like, well, maybe I've got this guy all wrong. So then the next night he invited me to a party, and he again kind of impressed me with his manners. So yeah, we had seen each other at our worst and seen each other at our best, and were friends for a long time. And when I finally gave him a chance, you know, it turned out to be a good fit.
That was a solid move on his part to tell you there's a group of us going.
Yep.
Love that. That's either a home run or a strikeout right there on the
Yeah.
front porch.
So on, you know, he would tell the story of, oh, it was just going to be the two of us. He just didn't, you know, understand. I'm like, no. I'm pretty sure there was a group of us that were supposed to be going, and you volunteered to drive, but then no one else came. I don't know.
Now, where were you living when all this started at, when you guys went out on the date?
I actually was living in Wendell. So I had moved from Greenville. You know, one day I woke up in Greenville and all my friends had left. You know, that's kind of when you live in the college town you went to college in, people move on. So,
well, hang on a sec. That's the title of your next country song right there.
Okay. I
That's
looked up and all my friends were gone.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah. So my friend who was married to my husband's best friend had moved up here, and her twin sister had moved up here, meaning the Wendell Zebulon area. So I found a job at a Marriott franchisee and bought my first house in a little subdivision in Wendell. And man, that house is probably worth a lot more now than it was when I sold it when I got married. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, I was living there, and yeah, so he was local, I was local. We had a huge group of friends, and I think we were really the last two standing. So yeah, we ended up together.
and you now have, you don't want to call it a farm because we're talking before the show, because I always like to get a couple more notes. So it's a few acres, and you said you have chickens and other types of animals. What other types of animals do you have?
So my husband is from Johnston County, and we live on the same land that his father and his father and his father, you know, grew up on. So we live next to my in-laws. We intentionally built a house next to them. My husband's parents are older than my parents, so we anticipate taking care of them one day. So we built a house about 5 years ago next to them. But my father-in-law and my 8-year-old son, their favorite thing to do is to mess with the animals together. So we have a whole bunch of hunting dogs, you know, rabbit beagles specifically. And then we have guineas, which are these ugly little birds that just roam around in groups, and they eat ants and bugs and things like that. So we have guineas, a whole bunch of dogs. We have 3 goats. I don't really know the purpose of the goats. We have a chocolate lab. What else do we have? Oh, we have 10 hens and 2 roosters as well.
Okay, so let's get to the naming of the hens, roosters, and goats. Have we gotten there yet?
Well, I have an 8-year-old, so he was probably 3 when we got the goats.
Right.
So one of the goats is black and white, so her name is Oreo.
I like it.
And the 2 babies are Chocolate and Chip.
Can you tell Chocolate and Chip apart?
I can't, but my son can, because he named them. So yeah. And you know, the chickens have a purpose. They lay eggs, so we have fresh eggs, but the goats just don't really have a purpose.
Yeah.
I don't really know why we have the goats. I think they're just pets at this point.
Now, the best part of this story is your father-in-law getting to spend that much time with his grandson. That is prime time right there.
Absolutely. So my in-laws have been my childcare since my little boy was 3 months old.
Mhm.
So his first words were, my father-in-law, before he retired, was a heavy equipment operator. So my son's first words were bulldozer, excavator, backhoe.
Yep. That, sounds like my grandson who's 4 and a half. He'll be 5 in July,
Mhm.
and, loves excavators. We go looking for any machine that will move,
Yes.
and he loved that. I was at the Durham Bulls game on Sunday, got some video of the Bulls mascot on his go-kart, just
Mm.
tooling around the outfield, and again, anything that moves, right? Their game,
Yes.
yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I score, pop points when I send video of any kind of machinery in motion, so I like the
Yes.
fact that your father-in-law and, your son get that quality time because your son will remember that forever.
Yeah, they are 2 peas in a pod.
Yep.
The kid's been driving a golf cart since he was probably 3. His feet, he couldn't even sit on the seat. He just prop his little butt up on
Yeah.
the seat. Yeah, so he's a country boy. I was hoping for maybe vet school or
Mhm.
something, but I think he's gonna work with his hands. He's gonna
Yep.
be a tradesman.
Oh,
I see
good.
him Yeah, I see him as being a mechanic, or he comes from my father was a welder by trade. At 4 years old, he's like, "Mommy, I'm really good at fixing things."
Good. Good,
Um,
good, good.
so
Yeah.
yeah, he's a little country boy.
Well,
It was
good.
funny, his 2nd grade teacher came up to me at a school function and said, "Did Drake tell you about school today?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, they're learning about adjectives, I guess." And they had to pick 3 words to describe themselves, and
Nice,
his first word was country.
nice. I like that.
So
That
he's a fun
when
little
he
boy.
gets to his senior year in high school, if he wants to go into a trade, tell him don't bother going to college and
That's
come
right.
come out with $42,000 in debt. Just start your own business or apprentice somewhere and you'll be off and running. I'm glad people are focusing back on the trades because it's a
Mhm.
wonderful living. It's much needed, and I don't understand why for years they got dinged on like they did. So,
Yeah, yeah, I was always pushed to go to a 4-year school,
yep.
and I
Oh,
mean,
we all were. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
and I mean, I've got a master's in business, and I use what I learned every day, but I don't have to have that to do what I do.
Right.
I'm not sorry I have it,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm like, I had a financial planner, like, "You wanna start a college savings account for your child?" I'm like, "No, I think he's gonna be a Johnston County, a JCC student." I mean, if he wants to go to 4-year school, that's fine, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
definitely not pushing it on him.
Yeah, no, I like that. You, promote yourself as a coffee and gym junkie. At the same time?
A cup of coffee before you go doesn't hurt. Yeah. So yeah, love coffee. Had a one-to-one with an IT person at Boulevard West in Clayton this morning. So I'm coffeeed up. I try to go to the gym at lunch most days. So yeah, I try to take care of myself. It's really more for mental health at this
Mhm.
point, I think.
Are you a coffee snob?
I'm really not. I'm really not. I've never met much that I didn't like. Not a Dunkin' Donuts fan. Probably not going to make friends by saying that. Definitely would prefer a darker roast, like a
Yep.
Starbucks type thing.
I'm a, uh, decaf guy, and so when I
Really?
meet people and they say, "Hey, can you meet at Starbucks?" I'm like, "Alright." So I
Eh.
go there and I walk up to the counter and I tell the person behind the counter, I said, "I'm that guy that just decaf, room for creamer." And they're always
That's
nice
right.
about it, but it still costs me $5.
That's right. Well, when I was pregnant with my son, I would still go
Yeah.
to to Panera or wherever and drink decaf, but
Yeah.
I just like the taste of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're ever in the Walnut, or Tryon area, right in Raleigh Cary line there,
Yeah,
Panera's all the way down to Walmart by 64, give me a call, I'll come sit with you.
sounds good. Sounds good.
The as I do, research for my guests, I was on your Facebook page, stalking
Okay.
professionally, of course. I love the picture of Elton John and Dua Lipa.
You're not the first one I've heard say that.
I'm a Dua Lipa fan. I like her. I like her. So, tell the story of how that came about, and is that the sense of humor you and your husband have?
So yes, that's a sense of humor you and my husband and I have. So for the podcast listeners, we had a CopyPro Christmas party, and they had a photo booth set up. So my husband put on these big goofy Elton John glasses, and I guess someone said I look like Dua Lipa and he looked like Elton John. So we're just goofing it up for the camera, and that's a good, really good snapshot of our relationship. And I think it's because we were friends for so long before we got together romantically. We can give each other a hard time and still have a sense
Yeah.
of humor about it.
Was that type of humor from him always there?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
that's one thing that actually made me not want to date him. I'm pretty outgoing, but
Mhm.
he's more outgoing than I am. He's the life of the party, very loud and fun. And, if you've ever met him, you won't forget him.
Good.
Whereas I'm an extrovert, but I'm kind of a little more reserved. So at first that big personality kind of intimidated me a little bit.
Yeah, there's some of us that don't mind the spotlight. We'll actually look for it, and
Yep,
others, if it's on them, they're like, "Okay, I can deal with it," but you're not gonna go look for it. But
that's right.
you're good in a networking room because you talk to people, but you're
Yep.
not gonna jump up on stage and start, open Heather night and just, "Hey, is
Yes.
this thing on? I got a couple of jokes for you," right?
That's right, that's right. And my husband, he's just got a larger than life
Yeah,
personality. He's
yeah. We just
he, he's a ginger, so he's got
Yep.
that redhead, big personality.
With my family, when we're together and I say something and they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Hey, life is about content. You gotta
Yeah,
get people laughing and talking." So I'm with him on that. I do like
yeah.
that. Being a working mom, what's that
Mhm.
like?
I tell my boss that becoming a mother was the best thing that ever happened to me professionally. Um, is it overwhelming? Absolutely, yes. But it just helps me prioritize. I think of all the busy work I used to do and all the things I used to do in my career that just weren't fruitful. And becoming a mother just nixed all that
Yep.
right off the top. So yeah, being a working mom, being a mom in general has made me a better employee. It's made me a better account manager for my customers. And my customers, they were so good to me. I had a child that didn't sleep. I don't think he slept until he was 3 or 4. He's just always been a mama's boy, and he just as an infant he didn't sleep a lot. So I would walk into my customer's office with a burp rag on my
Mhm.
shoulder,
Yep.
and they would just kind of like,
I
they
know,
would,
and then you can tell the real parents there go, "Yeah,"
oh yeah,
and just
sorry,
move
whoops.
on with it. Yeah, it's like, "Okay, yeah."
I was pretty embarrassed, but I didn't have the mental capacity to let it worry me. I was just too
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah, and the other parents were like, "Hey, we get it, been there,
That's
done that."
right.
It's the single people. When we're all
Yeah.
singles, like, "Hey, my kid is gonna go to sleep at 6:30 every
Oh yeah.
night. They're never gonna
Uh-huh.
cry in public," and you're like, "Nice try.
Yeah,
Nice try."
I'm gonna doesn't work out. Mine wasn't gonna have a passy, and that lasted 2 hours after he was born. I'm
Oh,
like, get that
yeah,
baby a
man.
passy.
Yeah, yeah. Gotta get them quiet first of all so you can figure out what the next plan is because it's
Um,
11:30 at night. We know we're not gonna sleep for a while, so let's plan for some sanity in the house, so,
yeah, but
alright,
yeah, I
so
think
oh,
being
go
a
ahead.
mom's made me a
Yep,
better at everything I do. I mean, because I have to force myself to take care of myself to be
yep.
able to take care of him, and my husband. So I take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, it's kinda like you're raising 2 sons, isn't it?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Moms all have that internal GPS in their brains where
oh, yeah,
we have to keep a mental inventory of where everything in the house is at all
yeah.
times.
Do
Yeah.
you
Where's
do
my shoes? Where's
yeah,
my keys? Where's
yeah.
my phone? Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
So I have my parents are divorced. So I have a half brother, and then I have step siblings. I have a lot
Right,
of step siblings.
right.
So my mom remarried and had my brother, and then I have a step brother as well. And then my dad remarried, and I have a step sister and two step brothers. So
I always ask that question to moms with boys because moms who didn't have a brother usually can't figure out why their 4-year-old son is standing on the back of their couch with a towel wrapped around their neck thinking they can fly.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
only answer is because 'cause we're guys. There's no
yeah, yeah.
logic, we're not trying to accomplish anything, we're just gonna see if we can fly.
It's funny. My neighbor across the street, she had one daughter, and now that daughter had a son, and she was babysitting the son.
Yep.
And she said, "Man, when my daughter was little, I could just sit her on the floor on a blanket with some toys, and she'd stay right there." She's like, "This kid is up and around, and I don't know where he is, climbing on stuff." I said, "Yeah, that's the boy for you."
Yep. Yeah, there's no reason why we do things. We just want to try it, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's where the Southern line of, "Hey, y'all watch this," was invented by a
You
little boy,
know,
I think, yeah.
you're
Uh,
probably right.
yep, so we gave people a homework assignment earlier, I don't think you knew that.
Oh,
So
okay.
our advice today, we're gonna talk to business owners, what their takeaway from the show today. So the first thing they need to figure out is, are they going through 1,000 sheets of paper in a month, right?
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
So if they're going through more than that, what's the first thing they should do?
The first thing they should do is look if they have something that they bought from Staples or Sam's Club or Office Depot, and because you've got two different classes of customers. You've got the ones that don't have a commercial machine yet, and then you've got the ones that already have commercial machine that's under release. So speaking to the customers who have something they bought off the shelf at Staples or Sam's or wherever, if they are running more than 1,000 pages a month, I'd love for them to take a look at their receipts for ink. How much are they spending
Ah,
on ink cartridges,
yep.
first and foremost? And then I want them to think about how much time they spend uh, procuring that ink. Are they having to run to the store ever so often and spend their lunch hour buying office supplies? Or are they having to be their own IT person when it just stops working?
Okay. And I think a lot of people fall into that category of, yes, I am.
Yes, yes.
Well, we've been putting Heather's number on the screen here during the show. And so if you have any questions, if you're remotely close to that, you need to just give her a call. She'll give you some good advice on what the next steps are and really what you're looking at. But that's great if they're that much toner. And again, we forget about the drive time to pick up the toner if you don't buy it on Amazon or wherever. So that's it. So small business owners out there, that's your homework assignment for today and tomorrow is, am I in that category of 1,200 sheets a month and I'm spending way too much on toner? So that's why you should give Heather a call. Heather, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show. Appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, I was just looking at my watch. The time is flying by.
That's when you know it's a good show. And also it's like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, look at that. So, anyways, folks, give Heather a call just to pick her brain on where you are and what you need moving forward. She'll help you. She travels a lot of miles, works with a lot of different companies. And sometimes we need to call an expert to go, hey, I think I'm ready for fill in the blank, and she'll be able to help you. So, anyways, Heather, good luck with that. Good luck with your chapter. And we will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.